Welcome to the Backyard Brothers podcast. We're talking about a lot of things today. Obviously, the college basketball national championships and Final Fours for both men and women is the main focus of today. But we got a lot of other things we're fitting in. So I think let's throw it over to Cody for a memory, and that's pretty relevant to what we're talking about today.
Yep, and I chose it for that exact reason. It's not a secret. Obviously, UConn won the national championship. They're back to back. Winning a championship in general is a tough thing to do. It's hard. There's so many games you have to win. It's just amazing. But to win back to back is just a different level of dedication, different level of talent needed, different level of coaching strategy. You just need to be a different kind of breed, and that's exactly what UConn is. So I thought, for memory, let's take it back to the last time that a team won back to back, which is the University of Florida Gators. They won 2005 and six season, and then the 2006-7 season, um, where they won both times. The first time was against UCLA, 73-57. The second time was against Ohio State, 84-75. And I wanted to point out their records for each of those seasons. It was 33 and 6 the first season and 35 and 5 the second season. Again, phenomenal. It's tough to always to win that many games and then go on and win every game in the tournament without a championship and then repeat the next year. That's amazing. So I'd like to turn it over to you guys, especially Dustin and Scott. I'm sure you guys remember that pretty well. And Yancey, I'm sure you remember that too. But I would have been, I don't even know what I 10, 11 and 12. So um, I I don't know how to dribble a basketball then. So so we'll have you guys talk about it.
Yeah, I remember those games happening. I remember specifically falling asleep during one of them and Scott throwing a remote at me to wake me up. I specifically remember that. But no, that's not only is it so hard to make it to the tournament, you got to win 70 to 80% of your games or better. In this case, they won 90% roughly, and then you got to win 6 games in a row each time against an opponent who is fighting for their life. And so to win a single tournament game is an incredible accomplishment. To do it 6 times in a row is beyond doubt, and then to do that again the next season to win 12 games in that format is absolutely incredible. And I like to look at it in retrospect in that through those 2 years they returned their starters the second year. This was Corey Brewer, Joakim Noah, and Al Horford, who all went on to have fantastic NBA careers. Horford and Noah were both multiple all-star selections. Noah was a defensive player of the year, and both have incredible impacts in the teams that they played for. I think Horford might be the only one still playing in the NBA at least, and he's still having a fantastic impact on the Celtics right now.
Yeah, I love all those comments, and uh, let's see. I think, like you said, Dustin, those three players returned for for the second one, and they were joined by Maurice Spates, who joined them in that second run to the championship game. Maurice Spates had an NBA career as well, not quite as impactful as the other three, but he I think he won at least 2 championships with the Warriors. So
Yeah,
yeah,
he's the only
those
one
four.
with the championship, I believe.
That's true. Yeah. Those four were the NBA players, and three of them won back to back on the same team. Obviously, coached by Billy Donovan, who is currently the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. Right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I questioned myself there for a second, but yes,
I don't know
he
for
was
how much longer, but yes.
right. Yeah, he was the coach of the Thunder, and then he was the coach of the. Now he's the coach of the Bulls, but obviously the last tournament team to win back to back until UConn, and so and then you just got to think about what they were able to do. They were the third seed in the first tournament, and then so they upset. oh, who was it? I think they beat Georgetown. Villanova was the top seed, and they upset Villanova in their bracket to get there, and then they won the whole thing against UCLA. The next year, they're the number one overall seed, and so kind of like UConn, they were the favorite to win everything. And who do they play in the Final Four? But UCLA again to get to the national championship game. And so UCLA had two cracks to win the championship, and Florida beat them both times. And then Florida ends up beating Ohio State. Ohio State that year had Mike Conley and Greg Oden, uh, two really, really good college basketball players, and in Conley's case, a really good professional player too. Um, and I remember, Yancey, you had visited us in Arkansas during 2007 during this run. I think it was after the tournament itself, but I remember all of us playing outside on the basketball court across the street from us there in Arkansas, and we were all pretending that we would end up playing Ohio State as well in the final. I remember that for some reason, but we were all playing out there because Florida had such an impact. We were pretending we were Florida, although it was a different team. I can't remember who we played, but it had an impact on us because we're like, this is the greatest college basketball team ever because when are they ever going to lose? Is kind of the thought of a 16 and 17-year-old watching these tournament games. Dustin, I don't remember throwing a remote at you, but I'm glad I did. Wake up and watch some damn basketball. So yeah.
Yeah, specifically, I remember being I knew that Florida was incredible, but at the time I thought Odin was a better player and that he would dominate against Noah. And then watching, like, Noah he was just quicker to the ball and was making more plays, and Odin couldn't keep up. And I was watching that just kind of thinking, like, this isn't going the way I thought this is going to go. And I kind of liked Ohio State more than I did Florida, even though it was like Florida is the team. I've never really rooted for the Gators in general, but I do. It's very rare that you get such a melting pot of talent that doesn't split off like instantly to go get paid millions of dollars. To get them to come back, especially for basketball, the way that the sport is structured, it's rare. And so it's incredible that they were able to do it. It's incredible that UConn was able to do it. And I think it's so rare, not only because of how the sport is structured, like how quickly you can go pro and things like that. But it's such a feat for so many reasons on top of just basketball. Just winning that many games in a sport period is incredible. And then for it to be in college basketball makes it that much more unbelievable. So shout out to Florida and UConn for being able to make history like that. Yeah, that's all I can really say, because I agree with everything you guys said. I didn't really have any points where I was like, nah, that ain't right. Like, they were incredible, and it was just a piece of magic that they were able to put all of that together under good coaching and get it done like that twice in a row.
And to your point, real quick, Yancey, it's even more rare today with the with NIL and portal. It's even more rare, and yet UConn still did it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we'll talk about that in a second because there are some similarities, but there are some major differences between those two. But it's really rare for a team to win a championship and then to say, okay, let's group together and go do it again. Usually you say, okay, I've done the pinnacle, I'm off to the NBA, right? But to group together and say, let's do it again. UConn, it was a little different because essentially they reloaded with brand new talent to win it again. Because all of their guys went to the NBA last year, and all of them are going to go to the NBA this year. So,
How do we feel that that's more impressive? Because I mean, I kind of do. To go, instead of having the guys that you're familiar with come back and do it all over again, or to just use a coaching system, put whoever's there Belichick style, and then we'll go make it happen. What's more impressive of those two? I'd have to say UConn putting it together with new guys is more impressive to me.
I think it's impressive in both ways. I mean, there are, but for a coach and scouts and their recruiting to go out and say, hey, I want this guy playing my team because of the other talent that I see that I coming in order to put that together for a 1-year stretch. That's impressive from a scouting perspective to be able to judge 12 to 15 players correctly and how well they're going to mesh and then having that work out. That's impressive in any sense, I think.
Yeah. You got to give props to Dan Hurley as an amazing basketball coach there at UConn. Billy Donovan, same way at Florida, but different styles, different ways of doing things. We'll jump back into basketball in just a second, but we're going to do some other sports minutes. So Yancey, take us away with your sport minute.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do a bit of MMA talk real quick. We have UFC 300 coming up. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on who's fighting who and what we have. I'll go through the championship fights and a little bit of news. Basically what you would call the third fight, like the third biggest fight that we have before the 2 title fights was canceled, which was Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway, the 2 number 2 guys in the division, basically to fight to see who goes on to fight the champion. They won't be fighting on Saturday. Short of that, the other 2 fights that we're going to have is Weili Yang from China. She's the women's champion at, I think it's 135 pounds. And she's going to take on Yang's, I'm going to butcher this name, Xiaonan, Xiaonan. Zhao-Yan, I don't know. And then you have Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. They're going to be fighting for the 205-pound championship, so the big boys get in there to bang it out. I'm actually particularly excited to watch that fight. It's 2 really good strikers, so they're going to stand up, and it's going to be kind of a chess match. Usually when you have guys that are both good at the same thing, you end up with what most casual fans consider a boring fight because it's a chess match. You don't want to get knocked out, and you're trying to figure out how to knock out a guy who's just as proficient at the things that you are. And so that's most of what I got for what's coming up on UFC 300. But the prelims have, I would say, at least 4 former champions fighting on them. So you can watch those fights for free. Definitely a card worth watching. And yeah, that's all I really wanted to shout out.
Great. Yeah, and we should definitely cover some of that as far as the recap goes and some of the things we've seen as that concludes. So the same goes for another sport that has a major event this weekend. Dustin?
Good pun on major event, in that it is a major. Yeah, the Masters is this weekend. Augusta is gearing up and getting ready to go with first round tomorrow. It's always a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's still in an interesting place in golf right now, where waiting for the official merger of PGA and LIV and all those different things that are going to be happening over the next couple of years. But Masters is always great and always exciting to watch. I'm not going to ask for predictions from either of you, but my commentary on it is I don't see who can beat Scotty Scheffler. He's been the number 1 golfer in the world for several years, and he's unstoppable. And so that if I was a betting man, I'd put the money on Scheffler to win the Masters.
And is he LIV or is he PGA?
He's PGA.
PGA. Okay. All right.
So I just kind of guessed by sports covers, is Rory McIlroy still a golfer and doing well?
Yeah, he still does great. He's had several top 10 finishes over the last couple of years, and so he's still great. I expect him to come out for then have a good round. But if you get a chance to watch, Scheffler is, not only does he hit it 350 yards, absolutely no problem, but then he doesn't miss greens. He just lands on the green. He's always putting for birdie. And so he's either getting birdies or pars. That's all he gets is birdies and pars. And so it's incredible, his accuracy.
Wow. Next week we're covering a few things, but next week we'll have to recap both of those events, as well as start previewing the NBA playoffs. So that's going to be next week. Those three things. The one minute that I'll throw in here is the NFL draft is in 2 weeks. The end of April, and so like I said, next week we're recapping some of those events and we're previewing the NBA playoffs. In 2 weeks, we're going to preview the NFL draft and we're going to talk about that kind of thing as well as continuing with the NBA playoffs, because the NBA playoffs will be a focus for us for the next couple of months, really, because it continues till June. So so anything else before we jump into basketball again?
Yeah, I just have some updates on the last few games of the NBA season. I don't know if we want to cover it now or near the end.
Let's cover it near the end. I think that's where we had fit that point in. Okay, so let me share this first. We're going to talk about the women's Final Four national championship. Are you seeing my screen with this bracket here, ESPN?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. As most people predicted, we had South Carolina versus Iowa, the number 1 and the number 2 teams in the country facing off. Although Iowa had to squeak past UConn in that Final Four game, there was a somewhat controversial foul at the end of that game on an illegal screen. As controversial as you want to say that the time of the game shouldn't have come into play, it was clearly an offensive foul. But still, it's a tough way to lose a game before the ball's inbounded. But Iowa won that game. South Carolina had no problem against NC State. And then at least 3 of us were watching the championship game there with Iowa and South Carolina, where Iowa played really close throughout the whole first half. And then South Carolina just pulled away a little bit. It's one of those things where Iowa clearly had the best player, but South Carolina clearly had the best team. What do you guys want to say about any of these 3 games?
So the play I noticed in the UConn Iowa game, Clark, she bounced that pass off a homegirl's leg. That was nice. Style points for that.
Yeah.
I gotta shout that out.
That was cool.
And then in the championship, I noticed number 10 down low for South Carolina. I wish I knew her name. I don't.
Cardosa?
Camila Cardosa.
Yeah.
She was looking big down there. None of those ladies were going to be able to deal with her size as far as I was concerned. And defensively, she was causing a lot of the problems. Even like when they would work it down low, they weren't really worried about that. So the perimeter defense against Iowa was a lot stronger than I think they had faced previous, because other teams were shifting around trying to cover 22 the entire time. And South Carolina didn't seem too pressed with that. And they were like, we're just going to play solid defense in the paint. And if you get open looks, good luck. And that's kind of how it played out, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think Cardosa had 20 rebounds in that game.
That's
So-
nuts.
Yeah.
I think half of them might have been offensive, which
Right.
is
Mhm.
what won the game is those second chance points.
Yeah, if you don't have fear to miss buckets, you're going to shoot better anyway. If you think it's going in, or if you think you got the rebound for sure. So.
Yeah, I think one thing Yancey said, there was a similarity between the 2 championship games, and it's the losers had the best overall player on the floor, right? Zach Edey for Purdue, Caitlin Clark for Iowa, the best player, and both of the opposing teams said, you know what, they're going to get their points no matter what. Let's just stop everybody else, and that's how we're going to win this game. And that's how both South Carolina and UConn. I mean, there's more to it, but that's probably the biggest reason why they both won is they stopped the other guys, the other girls, because they said we're not going to be able to stop these really, really great players. Although in some cases for Edey they did, but I liked that what Yancey said there is they didn't concern themselves too much with Caitlin Clark. They just made sure to stop everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, really echoing a lot what you said, Scott, that a better team would win versus a team that has the best player. But I do want to point out the score. Although it's a 12-point difference, I mean, it's impressive that the score was still, that close when it's a generational talent in Caitlin Clark versus a team that meshes well together, but there's no specific Caitlin Clark type star on that team. And Caitlin Clark is able to, score 30 of the points herself, and give them a fighting chance.
Yeah, and let me bring in some context here. These two teams met last year in the Final Four, uh, and South Carolina entered that undefeated as well. They hadn't lost a game until the Final Four, and Iowa ended their perfect season. They beat them in the Final Four to advance to the national championship game, where they lost to LSU, and so both of them were kind of playing for revenge. Iowa had beaten LSU in the Elite Eight, so they got their revenge there, but they've now been to two straight national championship games and lost them both. But South Carolina got their revenge to Iowa. They're coming in with another perfect season, and imagine losing out on a perfect season 2 years in a row to the same team. So they got their revenge to Iowa and finally won that national championship game. So a lot of good context there. So
Yeah, I wanted to mention like undefeated is incredible, and I think that helped the like boost the viewership for sure. Is like everybody wants to see, are they going to do it? Along with Caitlin Clark and a lot of the LSU being so popular, and shout out to South Carolina for being perfect this season.
yeah, that's no joke in any team, any sport, any whatever. That's no joke at all. So let's talk about Caitlin Clark for a second. Um, she herself has really elevated women's basketball in a viewership standpoint in particular. People are watching women's basketball, and it can't be a coincidence that a lot of it is because of Caitlin Clark and what she's able to do and how great she is able to play and the amazing the phenomenal player that she is. Uh, I mean, you saw I shared offline that the game between Iowa and LSU had more viewers than any college football game last year, any except Ohio State, Michigan. It had more viewers than the NBA Finals. It had more viewers than the World Series. I mean, that's no joke when you're talking about that many. And then you're comparing. So the men's basketball tournament, the UConn versus Purdue, I think had 12 million viewers, which is a lot more than it got last year. So a lot more people were watching men's basketball, but it paled. There were 15 million viewers who watched the women's national championship game. So the women's were so much more popular even than the men. And a lot of that can be boiled down to Caitlin Clark. So the question is, obviously, she's headed off to the NBA. She's probably going to be the first overall pick in the WNBA. Uh, are people going to follow her into the WNBA? Are people going to is the WNBA going to become popular because of Caitlin Clark? Is women's college basketball forever changed because of her, or is this a 1 year blip and just follow Caitlin Clark wherever she goes? Like, what do you guys think?
I think it's going to be kind of a mix of both. In all honesty, I think what she's done is a lot of people who have kind of thought women's basketball, girls basketball isn't as good. It's not as fun. I just don't want to watch that. Well, now there's proof, that it can be better. It can be just as good, if not better. That they know how to play. They can play some good ball. They've seen it now. But at the same time, is there going to be another Caitlin Clark? I don't know if there ever would be another Caitlin Clark. And so I would expect the viewership to go down, but to stay above what it used to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I agree with Cody there. Basically on all the fronts. I think yes, she helped boost it. Yes, people will watch her in the future. It will also help the NCAA women's basketball. It'll help viewership for that. I do believe it will see a bit of a dip because she's moving on, and that she was partially driving that with other women who were playing who will also probably be moving on. at least a couple from SC and a few from LSU. So I think that I think I just agree with you, Cody. I don't really have any battling points, and I think that that's kind of the route I see it taken. Yeah.
Yeah, to try to bring this home here, I've done a lot of research. Obviously, I'm close to the sport here, but it's Caitlin Clark was the 4th highest paid NIL player in all of college sports this past year. Number 4.
Or women, men or women.
Men or women. Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
think of any college athlete, you can only name 3 that were paid higher than them. I think Caleb Williams being one of them, right? And so yeah, she's number 4, right? Which is incredible, and getting paid millions of dollars in an
National
NIL
TV commercials, at least 2 of them. Yeah.
already.
So
Right. So she's had a fantastic impact in that market. And recently, the NBA and the WNBA have been making a huge investment into the WNBA to try to get more viewership. And ESPN is showing a lot more WNBA games. And so with Caitlin Clark going into there, that investment is there. And I expect that investment to increase for there to be more opportunities to view. And I think what fans will notice is that many of the players in the WNBA are just as good, if not better, than Caitlin Clark. That they are also incredibly talented women in the game of basketball, and they're going to see, hey, these are some incredibly talented women. And while she is a generational talent, she may be like what we see with other NBA players, that they come in and say, man, these women work hard and they're talented, and I got to step up my game in order to continue to be great. And so I expect that to continue to happen, that while she's not going to come in and all of a sudden be, MVP and all of that, she'll have to continue to work and further herself in order to make a significant impact like NBA players do. I would expect it to be like, I forget what year, but when Brittany Griner entered the WNBA, we saw a very similar bump, and that she was extremely popular. People wanted to see her play because of how great that she was. We're going to see a similar, probably much larger bump at this time because of the investment there. But yeah, it's going to be great for basketball in general, women's sports in general as well. Basically the whole sporting world as she moves on.
I like those comments, and something that I wanted to mention, if for those of us, I think 3 of us here who play NBA 2K, I think the last I don't know how long it's been, 3 or 4 years, you can now play as WNBA players too. You can play in the WNBA. I think that's a major investment that video game has made. I don't know the numbers. I don't know the stats, how many people play as women. WNBA, you can create a woman player now, and all those things. I think it's a solid thing, and I, for one, have decided I'm going to explore that. So, yeah. So
I think just real quick, just something that Dustin was saying makes me kind of turn some gears a bit here. And this can be something that we talk about another day, but I want to put a question out there now: is what kind of transition do we expect Caitlin Clark to make in the WNBA? Because there's in a lot of other sports, I'll go to football, of course. That's what I know best. There's a lot of people who get drafted who are considered generational talents, or this guy's going to make an immediate impact, and then they become a bust, or they don't. They don't make an impact. The first one I'll throw out there is Jamarcus Russell. Everyone expected him to be absolutely just amazing, terrible, right? What kind of impact will Caitlin Clark have in the WNBA? Is a bust even in an idea? That can be another day, another topic, but that's just something I wanted to throw out now.
Yeah, to quickly comment on that, I think that the most important word in this is the word professional. That when you're a professional athlete, you got to treat that as professional. And you said Jamarcus Russell. I'll throw out Johnny Manziel as one, where Johnny Manziel has admitted he watched exactly 0 seconds of film his entire NFL career. Jamarcus Russell, the same. That
Marcus Russell doesn't admit it.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
But if you're going to be professional, you have to act like a professional and take your job extremely seriously. And that sports is, hey, well, it's a fun thing. It's no longer a fun thing. It's your job. And I expect Caitlin Clark to look at it that way, and that, hey, this is my job to win championships and to represent this team. It's no longer I do this for fun. I do this for work.
Yeah,
and it's okay to love your job.
I think I want to add on to that. I agree with you, Dustin, that I believe she'll have that focused mindset. And part of that with the NIL money, you don't get paid fourth highest being a dummy. That doesn't happen not in this marketplace. It's just, you have to be smart. Someone in her corner understands contracts, contract law. Somebody in her corner understands like building a brand for a person, not just for a brand. And I think that can only carry over and get expanded upon if she plays well. That is completely contingent on if she plays well. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. Money changes a lot of people. I'll take a fighter quote and throw this in here. It's hard to wake up at 5 a.m. and go run 6 miles when you're wearing a championship belt and you sleep on silk sheets. It's hard to be a champion and be motivated because you're a champion. Who cares? I did the thing that everybody wants to do. Why do I need to keep that going? And so as long as she can keep that mindset out of her mind and start from zero and work her way like it's a job, like, okay, that was great. That was at the other workplace. Now I'm at this workplace. If she keeps that mindset, I think we'll see greatness again. But it would take those type of things to follow her.
Yeah. One last thing to close it all out. You mentioned the person in her corner. Her agent, I think, is named Alan Zucker. He is a very proven agent. His 2 most famous clients are Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence and Tiger Woods. So she's got a good agent.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you don't see those type of numbers build up if somebody doesn't understand something. Because in those contracts, there's 15 people with their hands out waiting to get something from you. And if there's not somebody that understands that and places you that high to be fourth, and let's face it, like, women in sports is not the most popular thing, period, and hasn't been since sports. And so for whoever got her those deals and to get her that paid amongst all those other athletes, male and female, there's somebody who knows what they're doing to coach that along and make that happen.
Yeah. Let's jump over to the men's side. Do you see my bracket? It's big, where it's at the Final Four. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Over on the right side is where I'm going to start. NC State and Purdue. It was a battle. It was low scoring. It was tough to watch at times. It was just kind of hard, uh, physical basketball. But Purdue pulled away pretty quickly and kind of stayed away, and ended NC State's Cinderella run. On the other side, you can say absolutely that UConn has now won 12 straight tournament games by 13 points or more, I think it is now, which is insane by itself. But even though it ended that way with Alabama, that was the toughest test that UConn had in the last 2 tournaments. That Alabama game was tough. They just ended up pulling away at the end, but Alabama was with them the whole way until about 5 or 6 minutes left. And so, should I stop there? Should we talk about those 2 games first, or should I close it all out? What do you guys think?
Let's close it out.
Okay. So in the championship game, there's a lot that I have to say. I'm not going to say it all right now because I'll wait till other people have spoken. But it was a close game through the first half, right? 36-30, I think, at halftime. Pretty good both ways, especially Zach Edey. He was dominating in the paint. but then UConn really pulled away in the second half by their defense and what they were doing on offense as well. And it was old school basketball when you have two guys 7'2" or taller bumping up against each other in the paint. You don't see that in the NBA anymore. You don't see that hardly anywhere anymore. Two guys 7'2" or taller banging against each other in the paint. And so it was a fun game to watch. Ultimately, though, UConn was too much and won everything. So I'll give it to you guys there. What thoughts do you have about any of these three games?
I'll go first real quick because I have a lot less, I'm sure, than Dustin and Yancey have. I think, number one, Zach Edey did really kind of what he needed to do, what was expected of him. He got 30 plus points. He's 32, 33, somewhere around there. But Purdue only shot a total of 7 3-pointers, and they made, I think, one of those. You're not going to win a game shooting 7 3-pointers. And then, of course, you're not going to win a game if you've only made one. And so that's where, of course, it came from the UConn defense. They're great there, but that's really where it was. They needed to make a little bit more risks. They needed to be a little bit tougher in there, but you got to make more shots than that, and you got to take more shots as well than that.
Yeah, we mentioned it that UConn's strategy was, hey, I'm going to take Klingon and just guard him one-on-one the whole time. And I'm sure Hurley had to tell him, he says, I don't care if he scores. I just want you to make him tired. If he makes it, sprint to the other side, make him chase you the whole way down and bump up on him. You're heavy, you're big, you can make him tired. And that's what they did. So what, he got 30 plus points. You made him tired and you totally eliminated their offense because, yeah, he got more than half the points, which Purdue's coach should think is a total disaster. That's a total failure of a game when your star player gets more than half your points. And so UConn did the absolute fantastic defensive strategy and saying, hey, you're going to play 1-on-5. That's what you're going to do, because every single other team that Purdue's played crashed and double teamed. As soon as Edey got the ball, double teamed, and then Edey was able to get his other players open 3-pointers. And that's how they won so much. Edey also would always get 25, 30 points, but that's not how they won. That was a distraction. And UConn said, nope, you're going to have to score them all because you're going to be one-on-one in the paint with my best player every single time. Good luck. And UConn absolutely won. They showed that was better. They showed that Purdue's absolutely nothing without Edey.
Great comments.
Yeah, I think really, who was UConn's big guy? What's his name?
Donovan Klingon.
So he was really just he was roughhousing Edey down there, man. And I enjoy that kind of defense. I'm a big fan of physical basketball. I like contact sports, like just period. And the way he was able, with Dustin, I think it was a great assessment, wear him down, make him tired. Dude, that's great. Play great for the first half and play great for half of the second half. But that last half of the second half, buddy, I'm gonna be in your body and I'm gonna hurt you. And that's what I saw. I think I even mentioned it in the offline. Like, he looked sluggish. He looked slow. He wasn't able to make it down the court in time. And to your point, Dustin, you can't win a basketball game with a guy. It doesn't matter unless that guy's LeBron James. You can't win basketball games with just one guy. And even with the Kobe's and the MJs and all of those guys had supporting roles, be it Pippen, be it Shaq, be it you can go on. You can't name one star player who didn't have an outlet to help them out when they were in trouble. And what UConn did was shut off the outlets. Go ahead. What are you going to do down there against Kling? And are you going to be able to play him in a game of one-on-one without your outlet passes? And since Purdue was shut down at 3 and was only 1 of 7, you're tying your own hands behind your back and shooting yourself in the foot with your mouth. So, I mean, that's trouble for anybody.
Yeah.
Two things from me. One, kind of emphasizing what some of you said. It seemed like at the end of the first half, and then for the entire second half, Edie was not only slower, but he turned the ball over. He was like, uh, he. I think he threw it. You remember when someone came down and doubled him, and he threw it about 80 miles per hour at one of his players' faces, and it bounced off the hands and out of bounds. There was definitely an element of this is defense that I haven't played before. Both they didn't double him every time, but they doubled him when he wasn't expecting it, and they came in and they swatted the ball away, and he was turning it over almost as often as he was scoring in the second half, and that's just excellent defense by UConn, who has been one of the best defensive teams all year. The second thing that I wanted to mention, and we mentioned a little bit last week about Zach Edey's uh, professional potential, his NBA potential. We know he's almost 100% locked to be drafted, right? He's going to be drafted in the NBA. We talked about his he doesn't have the NBA game right now. He's essentially useless outside 10 feet. And so is that guy going to do what he's supposed to do? On the other side, and no one says where Zach Edey is projected to be picked. Donovan Clingan is supposed to be a top 5 pick next year. He's he's that good because he's fast. He fits the mold of what an NBA center looks like. He's a Rudy Gobert style of guy that's going to block a lot of shots. He's going to make it down the court at the same speed of everyone. He's projected to be a top 5 pick, if not even more than that, top 3, top 2. He's going to be one of the first picks taken in the draft. And is there a reason? We talk about Zach Edey all the time. He just won the Naismith Player of the Year for the second year in a row, right? I mean, he's obviously the best player in college basketball, but it's Donovan Clingan, not Zach Edey, that's projected to be a top 5 pick. Why?
So I guess I can go first on this. Yeah, Zach Edey, he's slow. He can be a great NBA player. He does, like we say, he doesn't have skill outside of the paint. I would say his top potential comparison would probably be like a Zubac, Ivica Zubac, who plays for the Clippers. He's a great player, but his biggest skill is setting screens. That's what he's there to do, and he's great at it. That's what I would compare Edey's NBA career to, as being the best screen setter there is on a team, which is an underrated skill and can be great. Donovan Clingan it's hard to say, okay, who can this guy be like, because he has such a great skill set. He's fast, he's athletic, he's tall, he's long, he's a great shot blocker, he has a shot. His ceiling is significantly higher.
Yep.
Yeah, I second most of that. I think unless somebody pulls Edey aside and gives him a Yao Ming speech and tells him, look, you have to play defense and you have to score outside of this little box right here that you score in, I think it continues to be a problem. And from what I saw from Clingan, he definitely has what I see in other players that have success. I don't think I see those same things in the way that Edey was playing. He was being broken down and playing hesitant and timid, and hesitation kills gangsters. So you can't play like that down there in the paint when you're dealing with these big 7-footers and stuff like that. And Clingan was able to deal with the 7-footer, and I think that will show through later in their careers for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just second everything Dustin said.
Yeah. So one more thing I wanted to mention, maybe two, but like also looking at Zach Edey's game when I think there was one spot in particular that I'm thinking of where they had been guarding. UConn had been guarding all the other 4 guys out on the perimeter, and Zach Edey came out on the perimeter and took the ball, and he literally had no one to pass to. He was sitting there trying to find someone to pass to. He can't shoot it from there. He's literally left wide open, guys. Like there's no one within 7 feet of him because they know he can't shoot it from out there. He's not even trying. He's trying to find someone to pass to, and eventually he tries to pass it to a guy out on the perimeter, and it gets knocked knocked away and out of bounds. And so you think this guy does not have the skill set that is needed. He needs to develop a shot outside the paint to really succeed in the NBA, because UConn knew the scouting report. They just left him alone out there because he's not going to shoot that. He's not going to make it.
I'm not even worried about him shooting it. Can he dribble it 10 feet? Can he
Yeah.
go into the paint? Can he dribble it on his own, facing the basket without getting it stolen from him? And he didn't even try to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to mention, I mentioned it way back when in the memory, but the way UConn won this game as this championship as opposed to last year, essentially a completely different team. I think there was one or two of the same players that were bench players last year that were starters this year, but pretty much it's a host of brand new players that Dan Hurley went out and recruited and brought forward and taught him this culture and said, this is the way we play. It's defense first. And then we're going to be really fast. We're going to play this way. This is, I've scouted you. This is the way that I want us to play. And we're going to win another championship. So they won in a completely different style. And it's going to happen again where the majority of their players are going to the NBA this year. Asked by, whatever her name is at the end of the game, the sideline reporter, I can't remember her name right now. What are you thinking of? And he says, well, we're this team that's repeated. No team's won it 3 times. Says that's what I want to do now, 3 times in a row. It's the whole Kansas City Chiefs mentality, right? Some teams have won back to back, but no team has won a three-peat in NCAA basketball, and that's what Dan Hurley has his eyes set on, with a whole other host of new players. So,
Just to add on to that, I listened to another podcast as well called The Monty Show, and I enjoy it a lot. And they've been mentioning that they truly believe that Hurley and UConn is going to do a three-peat. They think it's going to be able to happen, and they think they'll be able to do it. And if that occurs, we've already said how difficult it is to win national championship, let alone back-to-back. But 3 times, they would cement themselves as probably the best program, best team, best coach, best everything in history, and not be able to have it removed.
yeah. I'll let you guys say something if you want to in just a second, but UConn has now won 6 national championships in their history. That's not number 1, but it's still up there in the top 5. But all 6 of their championships have come since 1999. So you can say that they are probably they're without a doubt the best college basketball program in the 21st century.
And it's funny because you tell that they definitely invest in their basketball program because their football program sucks. So they're like, we'll hang on to basketball. Football, you can go into the trash can over there.
It's cold in Connecticut. I'm trying to be inside, bro.
Anything, Dustin or Yancey, you want to talk about, or did Cody and I say it all?
I think we covered it.
That's great.
Okay. Great. Okay, let's. I think we had one last topic, and that is the NBA season officially ends on Sunday, the regular season, and the play-in games start before we'll meet again next week. Spoiler alert: I'm going to send you some things to predict before we meet. We're going to predict some stuff offline, and then we'll predict other things when we get online, so we can predict the whole thing, and we can show what we predicted. But Dustin, why don't you take lead here and talk about the last 4 days of the regular season? 5 days.
Before we get into NBA, we can go back to men's NCAA men's basketball talk. John Calipari.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
UK to Arkansas, right?
That's a big move. Yeah, thank you.
So Calipari officially signed with Arkansas to be next coach. I think the details, it's like a 5-year deal worth about $8 million a year, but then it's full of incentives. And the biggest incentive is he has a budget of $5 million to spend on NIL deals each year. And so he can spend $5 million to bring other players in each season, anywhere he wants. And so this not only makes a huge shift towards potentially making Arkansas a powerhouse in the SEC for basketball, but then you got to look at Kentucky and who they're going to get to replace, because they want to keep going, and then who replaces them and them and them and them, and so it's very interesting to see this. And so, any reaction, John Calipari going to Arkansas?
Yeah, it's huge. And, Arkansas wasn't in the tournament this year, but if for those of you who don't know, I think they were in the Elite Eight last year. So this Arkansas team is a good team that just had a kind of a bad year. Uh, and so bringing in John Calipari, who's proven, he's been to the national championship game for Memphis. He's won the national championship game in Kentucky. He's proven recruiter. I think it definitely shifts the balance of power in the SEC.
Yeah, I really think I just kind of agree with you guys. I think it's going to shake up the SEC quite a bit. I hope it doesn't leave Kentucky scrambling because Calipari's been there a while, right?
Oh,
Been there,
15 years, 16 years.
right. That's tough to recover from if your program becomes dependent on a coach like who was it? Duke suffered immediately after Coach K left, right?
For a year or two, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think we'll see those kind of struggles happening in Kentucky. And their loss is Arkansas's gain. And I think that Arkansas always has potential to do very well, but has been missing a few pieces recently. And I think Calipari might be able to sew that up and make them great.
I have nothing else to add. I agree with you.
All right, over to the NBA. So there's every team has between 2 and 3 games left the rest of the season, and it's crazy to think. So starting with the Eastern Conference, seeds 2 through 8 are totally up in the air. You have no idea where teams are going to land. Seeds 2 through 8, and would think there's only a couple games left in the season, and you'd have no idea where it's going to land. But a couple of the big highlights is the Bucks are currently in second place. They're 48 and 31. Giannis is not playing the rest of the regular season. He'll play in the playoffs, but the Knicks, Julius Randle is out indefinitely with some injuries, and so that shakes up the top half of the East, as they're currently in the second and third place, allowing the Magic and the Cavs to potentially make a push. My expectation, my prediction is that the Cavs are going to be able to jump from 5th into second place by winning 2 out of their 3, maybe even all 3 games of the rest of the season. Look for that to happen. Couple other predictions here. I expect the 76ers to be that cutoff there, to be the play-in game with Embiid back, because they're not going to be able to escape out of that 7th seed. But they're going to be a very dangerous 7th seed. Look for them being back with Joel Embiid and fully recovered and playing again. You said that we'll do some predictions there, so I'll wait until it's all official to fill out that predictions here. But my big bet is the Cavs going to jump up to number 2. But the Celtics, not only do they have the best record in the East, but they're having a 60-win season, that's an incredible thing. You don't get very many 60-win seasons. The 60-win season is like the 100-win season in baseball. It shows that this is a truly incredible thing, and they're capable of getting up to 65 if they win out.
Yeah, 62. So, yeah.
Any comments on the Eastern Conference?
I like what you said, and I may agree with it as well. What you said about the Joel Embiid and the Sixers, since he's returned, I think the Sixers have won 6 in a row, and so I do think the Sixers might be able to jump the Pacers to get into that spot that they don't have to play a play-in game. Because of the way that they're playing with Joel Embiid. I think he didn't play in a game a couple of days ago, and they still won in double overtime. And so they're playing good with him. They're playing good without him. Like you said, they're a really dangerous team, but I expect them to jump out of that play-in spot to be that last seed before the play-in.
Yeah, good comments.
I don't have a whole lot of extra toppings on that one. I do think that the Celtics have been dominant, and they're going to kind of continue that in the East. I don't know who's going to really be their competitor. I do like the Mavericks and the Sixers there, but I don't see too many teams being able to really slow them down right now with all the momentum they got.
Yeah, the play-in teams, the Bulls and the Hawks are the 9 and the 10, and they're locked in place basically at the 9 and 10 seed and have to battle it out to then try to fight for that 8 seed to then have to get beat up by the Celtics. And so it'll be interesting to see if they fight for that and how hard. But all right, jumping over to the Western Conference. This is incredible. Western Conference is so tough because you have 4 teams currently that are having 50-win seasons in the West. And the Mavericks are currently at 49. They're going to hit 50 games as well. I mean, you have 5 teams are going to have 50-win seasons, which it's incredible, right? That you have five teams that win 60% of your games. It's incredible. And it's there's still a lot of shakeup. The Timberwolves, Nuggets, and the Thunder are the 1, 2, 3 right now, and they're super close. The Nuggets and the Timberwolves are playing right now, and whoever wins that game gets the number 1 seed tonight. And so I think the Nuggets are going to end up winning that. That's my prediction. Nuggets will take number 1, Timberwolves number 2, Thunder number 3, and then the Clippers.
If I could just interrupt real quick and just mention, what's crazy is that all 3 of those teams are in the same freaking division, and so yeah,
all in the Northwest Division, all 55-win teams. The Clippers and the Mavs are essentially locked in that 4 and 5 spot. They're probably going to be locked in to play each other in the playoffs. Pelicans are most likely locked into the 6th spot. They have kind of a tough schedule to finish it out, but then the play-in tournament is messy. Teams can end up anywhere. You got the Suns right now at 7. Suns, Kings, Lakers, Warriors are all battling for play-in position, right? They want to be in that 7 and 8 position, so you only have to win 1 game.
Again, all 4 of those teams in the same division playing for the play-in game. So
it's absolutely crazy that you have these teams playing out. It's scary because you look at the Lakers and the Warriors, who I expect to probably be in the 9 and 10 position, to probably both fall to the 9-10 position. But you don't want to play either of those teams in the playoffs. I don't care if you're the number 1 seed, Nuggets or Timberwolves. I don't want to play the Lakers or Warriors in the playoffs. Because they have players that are just built different.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna reach back to our way back in October when we talked about the NBA season preview before Yancey joined us. Even when it was us 3, I think we said, Dustin, that we expect all 5 Pacific Division teams to make the playoffs, except maybe the Clippers, which we were unsure about at the time because of the whole James Harden thing. But we said we wouldn't be surprised if all 5 of those Pacific teams make the playoffs. That happened. So
yeah. And the Clippers happen to be the best of them.
Right. Yeah. That's all the comments I have, except watch out for the Pelicans, even though they're in 6th. I think they're one of the most fun teams to watch in the NBA. So
yes, they absolutely are. I'd agree with that. As we gear up for playoff time, like I said, only 2 or 3 games left for each of these teams, and most of the games are against each other. A lot of these playoff teams are playing each other over the next half of the week, over the next few days, and so there's a lot of intense games happening in the next few days. The Bucks and the Magic have to play each other twice. That's no fun for them to have to play each other twice in order to try to fight for position. And so it's very exciting when the last few games of the season are dog fights to try to get best position for playoffs.
Do you like I think Ranchero has some success with the missing piece there being injured in Giannis. So I think that'll play out. What do you think about that, Dustin? Do you think that I mean, obviously it gives the Magic somewhat an advantage not having to face Giannis, but do you think that really factors in? And does Branchero have a chance to shine there?
Yeah, Banchero's great. I expect them to split that series 1-1. The Bucks to win one, Magic to win one, and ultimately, ultimately Magic will probably slide into the 5th spot, and probably have to play the Bucks again. That they're going to play each other between 6 and 9 times within 3 weeks. It's going to be crazy, and so they're gonna get to know each other real well. As my best guess is that they're going to end up in the 4 and 5 seeds together.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I was going to add was specific to what you had said, Dustin, that you wouldn't want to play the Lakers or the Warriors in the playoffs. And I think last year Lakers were a similar seed. I think like 7 or 8, and yet they how far did they go? Were they in the?
They
went to the Western Conference Finals.
That's right. Yeah, they went nearly all the way, and that's because of LeBron James. When he's first off, he's just a phenomenal player as it is, but come playoffs time, he just changes into the monster, into the beast. And so yeah, then that's just looking at last year. That's why you don't want to play the Lakers in the playoffs.
Yeah. They won the play-in stuff, then they won the first and second round, and then they got swept by the Nuggets. So they kind of ran into a freight train at the end, on their way to the championship. But yeah, I agree. It's they're 9 and 10, so they have to win 2 games. One of them's probably out, because they'll have to play each other. And so one of them's out completely. But that's crazy when you got these really great teams and they're going to play each other, and the loser is out, and the winner has to win 2 games to get into the playoffs, and then faces either the Timberwolves, Nuggets, or Thunder in the 1 seed. That's a fascinating setup.
Yeah, one last comment on the difference between the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. Obviously, the Celtics are in the East. They're the best team in the NBA. 62 games, going to probably end up with 64, 65 game win. But the difference between the Celtics and the Hawks, number 1 and number 10, is 26 games. They're 26 games apart right now. The difference between the Timberwolves and the Warriors, the 1 and the 10, is 11 games. They're 10 teams apart, 11 games apart. This is every single team in the West is good. You do not want to play any team in the West. The playoffs are going to be intense. Every team is just as good as each other in the West.
Yeah, looking forward to it, and a lot of them are going to be streaming on Max, and so really excited for that. So yeah.
Do you think that affects the East, the Eastern teams facing the Western teams in the level of competition that they have?
Maybe.
It's with the current playoff format, right? It's always East plays each East, West plays West, and until you get to the finals. And so no matter what, it's similar level of competition, but West has won more finals, in the last 20, 25 years than the East has. But East has also done their fair share. You have teams. The Bucks won a few years ago, and the Cavs won. And so while the West has been just historically more powerful in the history of the NBA, right now it's separate. And there's been so much talk about seeding teams 1 through 16, and that would just be interesting to see if they do that.
Right now, it's like you have a bloodbath in the West, and the winner gets to play the Celtics in the NBA Finals. So that's
kind of how I felt about it.
Anything could happen, because I think we said
right.
something similar with the Bucks last year, and then the Heat gave them a gentleman's sweep.
That's right. Yeah. So, okay, we're looking forward to really previewing the NBA playoffs starting next week. A little bit offline first, I think starting Monday or Tuesday, whenever they start there. So expect something from me for them that we can then recap online, and then we'll do a full recap at that point, or full preview, I mean, of what the NBA playoffs will look like. So, and go from there. So thanks, everyone. Anyone have any last comments? Okay. Talk to y'all next week.